Hey there, Jen Patero here on Sunday, January 22nd, wanting to make a video today to chat a little bit about my reverse diet, ketogenic reverse diet out from my competition. So I jumped on a stage as a professional bodybuilder, a pro with the UFE organization competing in the fitness and wellness divisions. And yeah, it's been a process and a very different process in comparison to my reverse diet out last year. So that's sort of what I wanted to focus on a little bit today. Just some of the similarities, of which there are very few, and many of the differences that we have made this reverse diet out. Now, the reason we're doing things a little bit different is twofold. One is, after my first competition, I loved it so much that I really wanted to get back on stage a year later, right? So November 2021, I made the decision to compete again November 2022. So that meant that I needed to get out from that severely depleted state quite quickly in order to allow myself as much time as possible in a caloric surplus, in which I would be able to build as much muscle as possible before I then would cut back down to the show in November. So a year to me, being a newbie, somebody who's never done this before, thought that sounded like a long time and enough time to build. I thought, I'm new to this, some of the newbie gains. I'm Jen Patero, I bust my ass, so I'm going to be able to do this. And I did gain some muscle. Was it substantial muscle? No. But I did gain some muscle. But like I say, we had to reverse diet out quite quickly and get me to a place where I was eating enough to build. And it was 4 months. I think it was 4 months I ate at a caloric surplus before I then began cutting back down. And I learned a lot about that. I learned that 4 months at a surplus is not enough for me to A, build enough muscle for it to be highly visible, and B, it didn't give me enough time to reset my metabolism, because as we cut back down to the show, it was harder for me to get to the place that I needed to be. It was much harder than the first go around. And I have to believe there were a couple contributing factors, but one of which was my metabolic state. And I just needed to push myself harder. We needed to take my calories lower for me to hit basically the same spot as far as my physique goes when I hit that stage. So that was a key learning. Now, which led me to this go around. This go around, I am not planning on hitting a stage in 2023. I am going to give myself a lengthier amount of time to build more muscle, manipulate my body a tiny bit before I hit a stage again. If I hit a stage again. That's where my head's at right now. So I can take more time. I can be slower and more gradual with this reverse diet. And that's exactly what we're doing. And I am blown away at the differences. So going to share with you a few of these differences today. I'm going to put on my glasses so that I can read. Currently, like going into effective tomorrow, my macros will be 120 grams of fat, 120 grams of protein, 10 grams of carbs, 1,600 calories total. But I am still doing ketogenic caloric refeed days once a week, usually Fridays, but I've been kind of flexible with that. That's a change that I've made. So this Friday, I'm intended to eat 160 grams of fat, 160 grams of protein, 10 grams of carbs, so 2,100, 2,100 calories, over 2,000 calories. So my weekly average is higher than 1,600 right now. But I will tell you that this morning, when I stepped on my scale, my in-body, pretty accurate, I weigh 115.5 pounds. What? Rewind. If I go back to the day before I stepped on stage, November 11th, 2022, I weighed 115.7. I weighed slightly more the day before my show than I did today. And by the way, that day, I was only consuming 1,100 calories. So I'm now eating 500 more calories a day. I have decreased my cardio and I weigh less. It's crazy. It's mind-blowing. Also, in this time, in these 2 months, I have gone on a cruise. And on a cruise, I tracked nothing. I ate intuitively. I tracked nothing, and I ate like an absolute queen. Tournaments, I am living life. I'm being social on weekends, very social, in fact, and yet things are clipping along. I'm still losing body fat, I feel. I'm eating more and exercising less. So mind-blowing reverse diet out. Now, am I sticking to my macros exclusively? No. I am shifting things around a little bit and playing with things based on my day, based on the meal timings that I'm trying to manipulate. For example, if it's a day where I want to eat dinner at a normal time with a normal human, not at noon, then I will eat more vegetables in that day. I will eat more filler foods or fluff foods earlier on in the day to help push that bigger meal, that higher protein. I usually have a steak if I go out for dinner, steak and maybe a Caesar salad, usually. So I will eat more veggies that day and earlier, and I will also be prioritizing my protein. Because I always try and work out first thing in the morning. So right after I work out or within 2 hours of me working out, I want to eat some meat. I need some protein in this body to maintain my muscle mass and build, although I'm not in a phase where I can really build much muscle given my calories. So I work out, I will eat some protein, I will eat some veggies. I stick to broccoli, cauliflower, cucumber, zucchini, spinach. That's really about it. Mushrooms, love those veggies. Celery. And then I will eat a larger dinner and have a great big old steak and a salad or a side, well, always a side of mushrooms. But I go off and those days I may not get in quite as much fat. I'm most certainly not eating an entire keto brick on those days. That's something that I'm doing differently this time. That last time I would have eaten my 1,000-calorie brick and I would have eaten the steak and the Caesar salad and the mushrooms. So that is a difference. But then the following day, or shortly thereafter, depending on the weekend and what it looks like, I will then flip right back to my macros. and back to high fats. Well, arguably right now my fat protein ratio is pretty balanced, pretty equivalent. But that's how I've been sort of manipulating my macros and my diet and lifestyle to accommodate for some of these real life elements that happen. And I want to be able to participate in them, but I don't want to blow the macros, and I don't want to overconsume anything. And because my body is still at a caloric deficit, if I am this low in a caloric deficit, my body's just going to want to hold on to all of the extra that it's getting. It's still very stressed. My cortisol levels are still quite high. It does not know if I'm going to feed it enough tomorrow. So hold on to any excess today. And I don't want to be in that state. So I'm most certainly being a lot more strategic with what it is I'm eating, how I'm manipulating these macros, but always trying to keep total calories the same, right? So if I am perhaps eating more protein, a bit less fat, I make sure that I hit calories. Like I'm going to hit the 1,600 calories. But if I'm going out for dinner and I know I'm going to eat a big old ribeye and some mushrooms, then I may try and cut back a little bit in the fats, up the protein a little bit, and make sure my calories, I'm hitting the calories. So that's sort of been, how I've been making things work. Have I lost some muscle? Maybe I have. And I'm learning some lessons here around the balance of exercise and nutrition, which in the back of my brain, I learned that lesson the hard way last go around. But again, I'm sort of testing myself and challenging things and learning things about my body and where my thresholds are to compensate for real life. So tons of learnings here about both the diet, how to manipulate the macros effectively, and exercise. I may focus on some of the exercise shifts that I've made and what my key learnings and takeaways have been there. But if I think about the nutrition, those are the big ones. And I still firmly believe I need to prioritize those fats, because that to me is, if I cut back too much on those fats, my body doesn't have enough of the fuel source. And so I risk two things. I feel that I risk maybe losing muscle, right? At the expense of too much protein, not enough fuel by way of fats or even carbohydrates. And so I'm just going to eat away. My body's got no other choice but to eat away at some of its own muscle. And then the other piece of that is good old gluconeogenesis. And if I do eat too many carbs, even if they're veggies, and I'm eating too much protein, then am I going to start to shift my body more away from a fat-fueled source to a carbohydrate-fueled source? And that's not a place that I want to be either. So it's still a constant in my head balancing act, right? Trying to do and learn what is best for Jen Patero. And then I can also better help my clients, my keto clients. Love all of you. And I learn through my body, and I can then share with my clients and help them learn what is optimal for their bodies as well. And it's super cool and super rewarding, and I think very much a give and take relationship, and we both learn so much. And ultimate goal is for then clients to be able to take this knowledge and run with it and do exactly what I do, live and learn and explore what is optimal for your body in the process of fine-tuning things and optimizing health and wellness. So it's been glorious. But yeah, it's been a process. So I think that that's all my main takeaways for today. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Always happy to chat and dive a little deeper if it's needed and wanted. But otherwise, have a fantastic week or few weeks, and I will be back with my next video to chat a little bit more about some of the things I'm learning around how to manipulate my exercise. I guess both from a weight training perspective and cardio. Maybe I'll chat cardio first because that's maybe the bigger learning so far. Anyways, that's it. Take care. Have an amazing week, and I will chat again soon. Bye for now.